Hey there, friends and enemies, Jopie here again, and today I need to talk about Final Fantasy 16 after completing the Rising Tide DLC, which just dropped this week, and it's a bittersweet day for me. Final Fantasy 16 is my personal favorite game of 2023, even though I know it's very divisive for a lot of people, but I just absolutely love it, and I enjoyed the Rising Tide DLC as well. To be honest, I'm a bit jealous of PC players because I'm assuming that when they get the port, they will have both of the DLC integrated into the game as well, which means they will be able to unlock everything before taking on the final fight and then moving on into Final Fantasy mode as well. So I think that's going to be a massive advantage, and I do hope a lot of people on PC, when this game eventually arrives there, will give it a chance. The graphics are phenomenal. The peak moments are some of the best I've experienced in gaming in quite some time. Luckily, the Rising Tide DLC delivers on that as well. The icon battle with Leviathan versus Ifrit is absolutely intense. It is so much fun. On Final Fantasy mode, it is unreal, and I absolutely enjoyed it. Now, the storyline was pretty interesting for the Rising Tide DLC. I'm not going to have any spoilers in this video, but overall, I didn't care for the side character, the NPC who joined you in this expansion. I didn't think they added enough. Now, I will say, if you do the side content, meeting some of the other villagers, unlocking some of those other aspects of the game is very important. I highly recommend anybody who takes on this DLC complete those first as soon as they pop up, and it will definitely add some more context to what you're playing. You also have to remember that there will be some after campaign content. So once you beat the main storyline of the DLC, there will be some additional content as well, and I think it all ties together pretty well. I do wish that we got some of the new abilities earlier. So not only do you get the Leviathan icon abilities, which are pretty fun in my opinion, but after you beat everything, you ultimately get the Ultima icon abilities, and those are absolutely broken in my opinion, even going into Final Fantasy mode. So I do think that is going to be something where a lot of players, when they first are able to unlock that and then replay the game with the Ultima icon abilities, they're so much fun. They are very, very powerful, and I think that will definitely change the way the game plays for a lot of people. And it is just a little bit of a bummer that we got all of these abilities and we just don't have enough time to really enjoy them as much as I would like. That's my biggest frustration with the DLC. Personally, I wish there was more. Now, you can do the Karo Skate activity. If you've already beaten the game, you can go through on Final Fantasy mode and use all the abilities there as well. But for me, as someone who has really overplayed this game quite a bit, it just didn't feel like I wanted to continue replaying some of the same content over and over again. I just personally wish I would have had access to these a little bit more. I wish maybe we would have gotten Leviathan and Ultima with the first DLC, and then with the second DLC, now we were really able to jump into the story and play the entire thing with all these awesome abilities in our kit. I think that would have been a little bit better, but again, it's just minor grapes ultimately, because I do think overall the DLC is very much worth it if you're a fan already of the game, and if you're going to get this game as a complete edition once it does drop on PC, if that is the direction they go, which I would imagine they do, then it's absolutely going to be worth playing through as well. So I do think that's something to keep in mind. And yeah, overall, I think the side content is pretty interesting as well. Some of the side bosses are fairly challenging and quite a bit of fun, and the main boss that's not the icon battle is also pretty challenging as well, especially in Final Fantasy mode. So that's something to keep in mind. If you want a challenge in this game, you definitely have to beat it first, essentially, and go into that Final Fantasy mode. That's something that I think a lot of people were initially frustrated by. But for me, the story is good enough, and some of the peak moments when you're playing as an icon are definitely worth it to play through the game and not have to worry about the difficulty necessarily as much. Other than that, you don't really get a lot of useful new weapons. It was nice in the first DLC to get the Buster Sword, so I wish we had gotten another iconic weapon that was usable. We did get a weapon from Final Fantasy XIV, but unfortunately it is lower power than some of the other things we have already in the game, and that's a little bit of frustration as well. Now, Karo's Gate, I think, is a lot of fun. It is a repeatable activity where you can do waves of enemies and tackle challenging content, test your builds, and really see how the game plays for yourself. I think as long as you get your combos right and you mess around with a bunch of different abilities, it can be a lot of fun. I'm showing some base level Karo's Gate content in this video, so if you want to see generally what it's like, that's how it is, although it can get much more difficult depending on how far you go into the activity, as well as if you're on Final Fantasy mode as well. So that's something to remember ultimately. Now, other than that, I'm going to absolutely miss this game. It's one that, knowing that we have no more DLC around the corner, does make me sad, like I mentioned before, because I think Clive is an excellent protagonist and worthy of being a main character in a Final Fantasy game. I think the side characters, while not a true party, are very interesting and very important. Torgal obviously plays a big part. Then you have Jill, who is a massive part of it, and then Sid, who is fantastic as well. And I wish they got a little bit more of a chance to shine in the DLC, even though this is Clive's tale to finish. Same thing with Joshua. I wish they were more involved in the DLC besides just kind of hanging around. That being said, it's all good. Like, this is something that will add to the game if you're playing it for the first time, and was a welcome addition for anyone who wanted to jump back into it if they missed Final Fantasy 16. I'm sad that won't happen again in the future, but it is what it is, and I'm glad that development team can move on to something else. Anyway, let me know in the comments down below if you enjoyed the Rising Tide DLC. Are you waiting for that PC version before hopping in? I'd love to hear from you guys. I do think that the game is definitely worth it if you are a fan of the action, combat, and cinematic storytelling. That is where this game really shines. Plus, obviously, the icon battles as well, which I love, and I could rant about for all day, to be honest. Anyway, my name is Jopa. I hope you enjoyed the video. Hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, all that kind of good stuff if you want to see more content from me going forward. Have a good one. I'll catch you all later.